The sky above the planet Glevara shimmered in colors Elias had never seen before. It was not a simple blue or red, but a shifting mixture of silver, green, and violet, as if the wind itself had taken the brush of an artist. Elias Gray, standing at the edge of his landing craft, felt a shiver of excitement and nervousness. He had traveled for months through empty space, guided by the coordinates of a small, mysterious world no human had visited before. And now he was here, the first human to set foot on Glevara. The surface of the planet was smooth and metallic in some places, like a polished mirror, and rough and jagged in others, resembling broken glass. Strange towers rose from the ground, glowing faintly with blue light. Elias adjusted his suit, checking the sensors. His mission was simple: explore, observe, and learn. But he could not ignore the sense of wonder that filled him. Everything here was new, alien, and alive in ways he did not yet understand. As he stepped forward, the ground beneath him hummed softly. It was not unpleasant, just noticeable. Elias had felt vibrations on other planets, but this was different. It seemed as if the planet itself was watching him, curious about the human who had come so far. He took a deep breath, feeling the faint weight of his body against his suit. On Glevara, gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, but not enough to stop him from moving easily. Elias rounded a tall, glowing tower and came across a structure that looked like a workshop. Its walls were made of a transparent material that allowed him to see the inside. There, moving with precise, careful motions, was a being unlike any he had seen before. The Xylar, as he had learned from scanning earlier, were tall, armored creatures. Their bodies were covered in a smooth, metallic shell that looked like it had grown naturally rather than being made. Their faces were elongated, with large, reflective eyes that seemed to hold entire worlds within them. One Xylar was kneeling over a piece of armor that lay on the ground. The armor was broken in places, wires and tiny gears poking through cracks. The creature's hands moved carefully, adjusting, pushing, pulling, and testing each piece. It hummed softly, a sound that Elias could not identify. He realized the Xylar did not speak as humans did. Their language was something felt more than heard, a vibration that traveled through the air and into the listener's body. Elias stepped closer, making sure his movements were slow and calm. He did not want to frighten the Xylar. He bent down and picked up a small tool that had fallen near him, intending to return it to the creature. That was when the Xylar looked up. Its eyes widened slightly. Elias froze. He had expected curiosity, maybe even wariness, but he did not expect the intensity of the gaze. The Xylar's armor shone with reflected light, and Elias felt as if the creature were looking through him rather than at him. I think this is yours," Elias said gently, holding out the tool. His voice sounded loud in the quiet of the workshop. The Xylar tilted its head, almost like a bird observing a strange movement. It did not speak, but Elias felt a vibration in the air, as if the creature were thinking very carefully. Finally, the Xylar rose slightly, moving closer to the broken armor. Its hands trembled just a little. Elias noticed the shaking and realized that the Xylar was not only repairing something mechanical, but also experiencing a kind of emotion he could barely name. He remembered the scanner reading. Xylar had not experienced human touch before. That meant that the human presence itself was something entirely new. "I can help," Elias said softly, "if you want me to." Elias worked with care, using the tool to straighten pieces, reconnect broken circuits, and smooth rough edges. The Xylar watched every motion, its large eyes blinking slowly. When Elias finally touched a part of the Xylar's armor that connected to its chest, the creature flinched slightly, then froze. Its body shivered. Elias kept his hand steady. "It's okay," he said. "I won't hurt it." "I promise." "Then let's make it better together," he said. Time seemed to slow in that workshop. Elias worked carefully, showing the Xylar how to adjust tiny components, how to test connections, how to make small repairs without forcing anything. The creature followed his instructions slowly, mimicking the human's movements. At first, it was awkward. Its hands trembled. A wire snapped. Elias laughed softly, a warm, gentle sound. "Don't worry, that's okay, we'll fix it." The Xylar's society prized perfection, order, and control. They did not make mistakes because they had been taught not to, and they did not learn from error the way humans did. Hours passed. The sun, or whatever light source passed for a sun here, moved across the sky. Elias did not notice. He was focused on the task, carefully showing the Xylar each step. And slowly the creature's hands stopped trembling as much. Confidence grew, curiosity replaced fear. The Xyler experimented on its own, touching, testing, adjusting, with Elias encouraging quietly beside it. "You see," Elias said, holding up a piece that had been fixed. "It works. Just a little patience and attention." This was the first true connection between human and Xyler. It was small, fragile, but alive. It was proof that humans had something unique, something no technology or armor could replace: understanding, empathy, and the courage to reach out. As the day ended, Elias stepped back and let the Xyler examine its own repaired armor. The creature moved slowly, testing each piece. Then, with careful steps, it walked to the center of the workshop. It turned its head toward Elias. "You are different. You teach without words, you act without fear. This is new to me. I will learn." The journey had been long, the risks many, but this small spark was worth it. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most precise, but they had something no armor, no machine, no perfect society could replicate: warmth, creativity, and the courage to connect. Night fell on Glevara. The colors of the sky deepened, swirling like molten glass. Elias stood outside the workshop, looking up, thinking about the days ahead. He knew there would be challenges, puzzles, and dangers he could not yet see. But for the first time, he felt a deep certainty. Humans had something powerful here, something that could change everything. Inside the workshop, the Xyler, Kellan, as the censors had named him, sat quietly beside the repaired armor. His hands hovered over it, testing, adjusting, learning. He trembled slightly as he had before, but now it was a tremble of excitement, not fear. "This human teaches in ways I never imagined. Perhaps we can be more than we are." The future of Glevara, and perhaps many worlds beyond, had just begun to change, all because a human had dared to touch, to teach, and to care. The morning sun, or whatever light source Glevara had, glowed faintly over the workshop, turning the metallic towers into columns of liquid silver. Elias Gray woke in his small quarters aboard the landing craft, but he did not linger on the bed. Today he had work to do. He could feel it in his chest, a mix of excitement and curiosity. The Xyler, especially Kellan, had responded to him in ways no being he had ever met had done. That first touch had created a spark, and Elias wanted to see where it could grow. When he entered the workshop, he found Kellan already there, standing beside the repaired armor. The alien's movements were smoother than the day before, though still careful. Kellan's head tilted in curiosity as Elias approached. "Good morning," Elias said, smiling. "How are you today?" "I do not yet fully understand, but I wish to try." Imperfection is part of the process. Kellan imitated his movements at first awkwardly, then more confidently, finally beginning to experiment on his own. The alien's hands still trembled occasionally, but less and less as the day went on. Elias watched carefully. He realized that Kellan was learning something humans often took for granted: confidence gained through trial, not rigid instruction. The Xyler had been taught that mistakes were unacceptable. Now, through human touch and guidance, Kellan was discovering that failure could be temporary and even valuable. "You see," Elias said, holding a small gear between his fingers, "you don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep trying. Keep trying and it will improve. It's acting differently than usual. Humans would call it a malfunction." Elias tapped here and there, turned knobs, adjusted sensors, and slowly, methodically, observed the responses. Kellan mirrored his actions at first, unsure, then began suggesting small changes of his own. A twist here, a pressure adjustment there. Slowly, the hum of the machinery returned to normal. Kellan's voice trembled slightly with excitement. It works. Your methods, they succeed." Elias introduced small challenges, each designed to show Kellan the value of creativity, observation, and teamwork. Sometimes Elias would place an oddly shaped piece of armor and ask Kellan to fit it without instructions. Sometimes he would ask Kellan to test a part while he observed, letting the alien find a solution in his own way. Each time, Kellan hesitated, then tried, then succeeded. Word of their collaboration began to spread. Other Xyler, tall and armored like Kellan, approached cautiously. They watched from a distance, curious about what the human could do that was different. Their society had always valued precision, control, and knowledge passed down through strict instruction. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was fascinating. One day, while Elias and Kellan were working on a particularly delicate armor plate, a group of Xyler elders arrived. They did not speak, but their presence was commanding. Elias stopped and stood, giving them a respectful nod. Kellan stepped forward, trembling slightly, as if uncertain how to introduce the human to these high-ranking figures. The eldest Xyler observed Elias carefully. "Why do you allow imperfection?" it asked finally, its voice a low vibration. Elias smiled gently. Because imperfection leads to learning. Humans learn through experience, not just rules. By trying, by failing, by observing, we grow stronger and wiser. Your way teaches something our rules cannot. Elias helped Kellen repair not only armor but also small devices, learning to combine human intuition with Xylar precision. They worked on a tiny flying probe, adjusting its sensors and wings. Elias suggested a new design based on observation and trial. Kellen hesitated, then implemented it. The probe lifted gracefully, hovering steadily in the workshop. "It flies better than before," Kellen said, astonished. "Your suggestions surpass our calculations." Elias realized that humans could influence more than just mechanical function. They could inspire confidence, curiosity, and innovation. One afternoon, as the twin sons of Glevara began their descent, Elias and Kellen took a break outside the workshop. The light reflected on the metallic city, turning the towers into columns of glowing fire. Kellen observed the scenery silently. "Your species sees differently," Kellen said finally. "You notice small things, tiny patterns, things we overlook. Your touch, your presence, teaches more than you know. Not only about machines, but about your way of seeing, of feeling, of acting." That was the moment he had hoped for, the moment when curiosity turned into understanding. Humans were not the strongest or the most precise, but they had something that could inspire even a technologically advanced alien race: empathy, creativity, and courage. As night fell, Elias returned to his quarters, thinking about the days ahead. He knew that challenges would come. Machines would fail, discoveries would surprise, and misunderstandings would arise. But for the first time, he felt certain of one thing: humans could teach, guide, and inspire in ways that no technology or strict rule could. Inside the workshop, Kellen sat beside the hovering probe, touching it lightly, testing, learning. He hummed softly, a sound of curiosity and awe. "This human has changed my understanding. Perhaps we are capable of more than our rules allow. Perhaps humans are more than they appear." The first human and the first Xylar student had begun a journey together, one that could transform not only their own understanding, but perhaps the understanding of an entire world. Elias smiled in the dim light. He did not yet know the full impact of his presence on Glevara, but he felt the beginning of something extraordinary. Something that could spread, like light across the sky, changing the lives of Xylar and humans alike. And so, with careful hands, steady hearts, and curious minds, Elias and Kellen continued their work. Each touch, each adjustment, each small success was a step toward a future neither could yet imagine. And with every passing day, the human influence grew, not through force, but through understanding, patience, and the simple power of reaching out. The night deepened, and the glowing towers of the city pulsed softly, as if responding to the promise of new ideas. Elias looked at the sky, feeling hope and wonder. He had come to this distant world as an explorer. But already he knew he was something more: a teacher, a friend, and a bridge between species. And for the first time, the Xylar began to see the universe not only through calculations and rules, but through the human way, full of curiosity, creativity, and courage. The morning on Glevara began quietly, with soft beams of light sliding across the metallic city. Elias Gray walked toward the workshop, feeling a thrill of anticipation. Today, something felt different. Kellen had been experimenting more boldly over the past few days, and the other Xylar were watching him closely. There was curiosity in the air, a kind of tension mixed with wonder, as if the city itself sensed change coming. When Elias entered the workshop, he found Kellen already working on a small machine. The creature's hands moved with precision, but there was something new in the way it approached the task. Kellen paused, tilted his head, and hummed softly, a sound Elias had come to recognize as thought in motion. "Good morning," Elias said. "How is the probe today?" "It flies steadily, but I want to improve its stability. I have tried adjustments based on your methods." "Do you feel that?" Elias asked. Kellen froze for a moment, his head tilting. "Yes, something is different." This was the moment he had prepared for. Humans were not invincible, but they could solve problems in unexpected ways. "We need to investigate," Elias said. "If we can fix this now, it might prevent bigger problems later." Xylar normally moved with strict routines, following the protocols established over centuries. Elias, however, walked with a sense of curiosity, stopping to observe, examining walls, sensors, and conduits in ways no Xylar had considered. "Why do you not follow the standard path?" Kellen asked. voice trembling slightly with a mixture of confusion and intrigue. Sometimes the standard path misses small details, Elias explained. We need to look for patterns, signals, anything that seems unusual. Several energy channels were misaligned, causing feedback loops that could destabilize the city's systems. The Xyler engineers had tried to fix these channels before, but their approach was rigid, based solely on calculations and routine procedures. They had failed to anticipate the irregularities caused by environmental fluctuations. Elias knelt beside the conduits, examining them carefully. He used a tool to test connections, observing subtle vibrations and electrical flows. Kellen crouched beside him, mirroring the human's movements, but Elias could see the hesitation. The alien was used to precise calculations, not experimentation. Watch carefully, Elias said. Sometimes you have to try a solution and see what happens. If it doesn't work, adjust and try again. A Xyler engineer nearby raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical, but did not intervene. The sight of a human leading a Xyler through trial and error was unusual, even unsettling to their society. Hours passed. Elias and Kellen tried multiple configurations, each small adjustment bringing the conduits closer to stability. At one point, a feedback spike jolted the lights, sending a flicker through the workshop. Elias steadied himself, adjusted the tool, and calmly made a correction. Kellen blinked, astonished. You remain calm even when it fails, Kellen said. Your patience is remarkable. We do not fear them, we study them. Kellen's voice trembled slightly, but this time with excitement. It works. Your method, it succeeds where calculations failed. They were astonished, not only that the conduits had been fixed, but that a human had taught them a new way to approach problems. Kellen stood proudly beside Elias, humming softly with awe and understanding. Your presence changes how we think, Kellen admitted. Perhaps humans are more than we imagined. Humans are good at adapting, noticing patterns and thinking in ways others may not. And sometimes, all it takes is a small spark of curiosity. They experimented with machines, structures, and even small devices that monitored environmental conditions. Humans and Xyler worked side by side, blending the precision of Xyler engineering with the adaptability and intuition of human reasoning. Elias noticed a change in Kellen. The alien's trembling hands grew steadier, movements more confident, and voice more expressive. Kellen began suggesting ideas, sometimes surprising Elias with unconventional approaches that even the human had not considered. Together, they explored new methods, tested small inventions, and learned to trust intuition alongside logic. One day, a minor crisis occurred when a small monitoring device began to malfunction, displaying erratic readings. Xyler engineers immediately suggested shutting it down and replacing it entirely, a simple, calculated solution. Elias shook his head. Let's see what it's doing first, he said. We can learn something from the way it behaves. That's how humans discover new things. Your methods teach patience, observation, and understanding, Kellen said softly. I see now why humans succeed in ways we cannot. Engineers began experimenting cautiously, encouraged by Kellen's newfound confidence and Elias' example. Machines were repaired faster, ideas flowed more freely, and even the air seemed lighter with curiosity. Xyler culture, known for its rigid control and perfectionism, was beginning to embrace small but meaningful change. By the end of the week, Elias reflected on their progress. He had not just repaired machines or solved technical problems, he had sparked a cultural shift. Humans had a gift, not strength, not advanced technology, not perfect calculation, but the ability to inspire, teach, and transform through curiosity, empathy, and ingenuity. Kellen approached him as they watched a probe hover steadily in the workshop. This, human, changes more than machines. You change minds, hearts, and perhaps the future of Glevara itself. A human's touch, guidance, and example had not only solved immediate problems, but had opened doors to new understanding, new possibilities, and a future that had never been imagined. As the sun set over the metallic city, Elias and Kellen stood side by side, watching the glow reflect in the towers. The hum of the city had become steady, harmonious, and alive with potential. Machines, devices, and energy flows moved with a precision born of collaboration and understanding, not rigid rules alone. Elias looked at Kellen, who hummed softly in contemplation. I never thought our world could feel so open. Your presence shows us there is more to see, more to try, more to learn. Humans can help Xyler see beyond their rules. You will continue to learn, to explore, and to imagine, and you will teach others in turn. Perhaps the universe is bigger than we thought, and humans help us see it. And somewhere deep inside, Kellen and the other Xyler sensed it too. Humans were not just visitors or explorers, they were catalysts. They could awaken potential, inspire change, and bring light into places that had never known warmth or imagination. Elias Gray, standing in the glow of Glevara, knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new puzzles, and new discoveries. But he also knew this. Wherever humans went, they left more than tools or knowledge. They left hope, understanding, and the courage to reach beyond what was known. And for the first time, the Xyler began to see the world not only through calculations and rules, but through human curiosity, creativity, and courage. The city of Glevara was alive with subtle change. The towers glimmered faintly, their lights pulsing in harmony with the energy conduits that Elias Gray and Kellen had repaired together. In the past, the Xyler moved with careful precision, their routines unbroken, their movements predictable. But now there was a quiet shift in the air, a curiosity, a sense of possibility that had not been seen before. Humans had arrived, and the first spark of transformation had begun. Elias entered the workshop early in the day, carrying a small set of tools. Kellen was already there, kneeling beside a half-assembled device that hummed softly. The alien's hands were steady, movements precise, yet there was a new energy in the way he worked. He was experimenting, testing ideas, and taking small risks, things that Xyler were taught to avoid. "Good morning," Elias said. "What are you working on today?" "That's a great idea. Let's try it together and see what happens." "It works better than I imagined," Kellen said softly, a note of pride in his voice. "Your presence teaches me things we never learned." At first, they watched silently, hesitant to interfere with the unusual collaboration between human and Xyler. But curiosity won over caution. They peered at the devices, the repaired armor, and the energy conduits, whispering to one another in low hums. One elder, taller and more imposing than the others, finally stepped forward. "Why do you allow the human to guide your actions?" the elder asked Kellen. Kellen paused, then spoke with growing confidence. "Because it shows me things we cannot see alone. We learn faster, we discover more. The human encourages experimentation. It is not the Xyler way." Slowly, other Xyler began to mimic the approach, cautiously adjusting devices, testing outcomes, and observing results. What had been impossible under rigid rules became possible through human-inspired experimentation. By midday, the workshop was alive with energy. Xyler engineers were trying new methods, inventing small improvements and collaborating in ways that would have been unthinkable a week ago. Elias guided when needed, but allowed them to explore on their own. Each success built confidence. Each small failure taught a lesson. "Your way opens possibilities," Kellen said to Elias during a quiet moment. "We see more, understand more, even when we do not follow the rules we once valued above all." Other Xyler walked nearby, experimenting with devices, observing patterns, and quietly discussing new ideas. The city hummed with innovation and energy. Kellen's voice broke the silence. "I did not believe change was possible. Our rules, our structure seemed absolute, but your presence shows us there is more. We can learn, adapt, and improve. We try, fail, learn, and try again. And when we do it together with others who are willing, we can accomplish more than any individual ever could." Elias introduced simple tools to enhance observation, magnifiers, adjustable sensors, and small analytical devices. Xyler, who had been hesitant, now worked alongside him, learning not only from his knowledge, but also from his approach to problem-solving. One afternoon, a subtle challenge arose. A small weather monitoring device began displaying unusual readings. The Xyler engineers prepared to shut it down and restart it, a standard procedure. But Elias knelt beside the device, studying the irregular patterns. "Let's see what it's trying to tell us," Elias said. "Humans learn from patterns, even unexpected ones. Maybe the device is giving us information, not just a failure." "Humans understand differently. Your presence transforms our thinking. Perhaps humans change not only machines but minds." The city's routines were shifting subtly. Machines were repaired more efficiently, new ideas flowed, and Xyler engineers spoke with excitement, testing small innovations that had never been considered. "Perhaps we have been too rigid," the elder admitted softly to Kellen. The human shows us there is value in experimentation, observation, and patience beyond calculation. Yes, and the human touch inspires confidence. We see we are capable of more than rules alone allow. Xyler were learning not only about human methods, but also about new ways of thinking, collaborating, and creating. Your species brings change without force, Kellen said softly. You inspire us to grow. We have not felt this before. Understanding, patience, and the courage to try can accomplish more than rules or control ever could. Kellen demonstrated one of these devices to Elias, a compact energy stabilizer for smaller conduits. We designed this together, inspired by your adjustments, Kellen said, pride shining in his voice. It is small, but it shows we can create differently. We can improve without abandoning our ways, yet we learn to see beyond them. You have taken what you learned and made it your own. That's exactly how humans grow, by adapting knowledge, experimenting, and creating something new. A culture that had been bound by rules and perfection was slowly opening to creativity, experimentation, and collaboration. And it was not through coercion or command, but through example, curiosity, and the human way of learning. Elias realized the depth of what had begun. He had not just repaired machines or solved technical problems. He had sparked a cultural evolution. Xyler were beginning to embrace the value of observation, patience, and trial and error. They were learning the power of imagination, adaptability, and understanding. As the twin suns of Glevara set, painting the city in shades of gold and violet, Elias and Kellan sat quietly, overlooking the bustling workshop below. Xyler engineers were testing new ideas, collaborating, and discovering new possibilities. We never imagined this, Kellan said softly. Your presence changes not only machines, but how we see the world. Humans bring hope. And when we work together, anything is possible. Humans were not only explorers, they were teachers, catalysts, and bridges. Through patience, ingenuity, and compassion, they could inspire growth in even the most disciplined, precise, and controlled societies. As night fell fully, the glowing towers reflected the promise of a new era. Machines moved more smoothly, ideas flowed more freely, and Xyler minds were opening in ways no one had imagined. Elias Gray, human and outsider, had begun a transformation that would echo across the city, and perhaps across the stars. Kellen hummed softly beside him, reflecting on the journey so far. We see the universe differently now. Humans remind us there is more to learn, more to try, and more to imagine. Perhaps this is only the beginning. And it was all because a human had dared to teach, inspire, and touch hearts in ways that no one could have predicted. The twin suns of Glevara rose slowly, casting long reflections across the metallic towers of the city. Elias Gray stood at the edge of the observation platform, looking down on the bustling workshop below. He could feel the change in the air, a sense of energy and curiosity that was unlike anything he had seen when he first arrived. The Xyler were no longer rigid, cautious, and restrained. They moved with purpose, experimenting, observing, and learning in ways that showed both pride and excitement. Kellen approached him, carrying a small device they had been refining for days. His hands were steady and his movements confident, a clear sign of growth. "Look at this," he said, holding the device up. "It monitors the energy conduits and adapts automatically. We designed it together, inspired by your methods." That's exactly how humans grow, by experimenting, learning, and adapting. You've taken the first steps towards something greater. It was a city transformed, not by force, but by guidance, example, and the gentle encouragement of a human who had dared to touch both armor and mind. As Elias walked among them, he noticed the small ways in which the Xyler had adopted human approaches. They experimented instead of fearing mistakes. They observed carefully and acted based on understanding rather than rigid protocol. They smiled in subtle ways, a reflection of the joy that came with discovery. Even the youngest Xyler were learning quickly, embracing curiosity in ways their elders once discouraged. One of the elder Xyler approached Elias, a look of cautious respect on his face. "Human, your presence has changed more than our methods. You have inspired our people. We see now that learning, creativity, and patience are as powerful as any calculation. Perhaps the universe is larger than we imagined, and humans help us see it differently." It was acknowledgement that humans had a unique gift, not the strongest bodies, not the fastest minds, but the ability to inspire, to teach, and to awaken potential. The Xylar were now seeing themselves in a new light, imagining possibilities that had once been impossible. Over the next several days, Elias continued to work alongside Kellan and the Xylar. They refined devices, repaired armor, and experimented with energy flows. Each day brought new insights, new questions, and new successes. What had begun as curiosity and cautious collaboration had blossomed into a culture of innovation and learning. Kellan's confidence grew with each success. He began to lead small teams, guiding younger Xylar in experimentation and observation. His trembles, once a sign of uncertainty, had become almost imperceptible, replaced by a calm and steady assurance. He had learned from human example that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Elias and Kellan walked to the edge of the observation platform. Below them the city shimmered, alive with lights, movement, and the quiet excitement of discovery. "It is beautiful," Kellan said softly. "Not just the city, but what we have become. Your presence has shown us what is possible." That is the true change. Humans had inspired change not through dominance, but through example, patience, and the willingness to learn alongside others. The elder Xylar joined them, a small smile of approval on his reflective face. "You have shown us that our world can grow beyond its boundaries. Our people will continue to learn, experiment, and improve. Your presence will be remembered for generations. We will continue what you have begun. We will not forget your lessons, human. You have touched us in ways no technology could." The metallic towers reflected starlight, blending with the glow of energy conduits and the soft luminescence of the workshop. The city was alive, not just with machines and light, but with curiosity, learning, and the quiet joy of discovery. Xylar engineers continued to test devices, refine designs, and explore possibilities with a freedom they had never known. Elias walked through the city one last time, observing the changes. The Xylar no longer moved with rigid precision alone. They experimented, discussed ideas, and even laughed softly at small mistakes, an expression of joy at learning. The transformation was subtle yet profound. Kellan approached him as the first light of a new day crept across the city. "Human, it is time for you to leave. But know this, you have changed us forever. Your touch, your guidance, your presence will echo through our people for generations. And your growth, your courage, curiosity, and willingness to change has taught me more than you know." The twin suns rose fully, casting Glevara in brilliant light. He felt the quiet hum of the planet beneath him, alive with curiosity, innovation, and possibility. Humans had inspired change, and in return they had learned from the Xylar as well. As the craft lifted off, Kellan watched, standing among the other Xylar. He held the repaired armor in his hands, a symbol of the journey they had shared. Humans teach not only by words or tools, but by presence. They awaken courage, curiosity, and hope. I will remember this always. But they had something more powerful than technology or strength. The ability to touch minds and hearts, to inspire, to awaken curiosity and creativity. That power, subtle yet profound, had changed a world. And Glevara, once a city bound by rules and perfection, now thrived with innovation, imagination, and hope. Machines hummed in harmony, devices moved with purpose, and Xylar minds opened to possibilities that had been unimaginable before. Elias set a course for the next world, carrying the knowledge that wherever humans went, they left more than footprints or machines. They left understanding, inspiration, and the quiet promise of growth. Kellan turned back to the city, his heart full of excitement and wonder. "We are capable of more than we imagined. Humans have shown us the way. Perhaps one day we will meet them again and learn even more." And somewhere in the stars above, a human soared onward, knowing that the touch of curiosity, courage, and care could change worlds, one life at a time. And so, the story of the first human on Glevara came to a close, not with an ending, but with a beginning. A beginning of growth, understanding, and hope that would ripple through Xylar society for generations to come. Elias Gray, human and explorer, left behind more than repairs and instructions. He left behind a legacy of inspiration, curiosity, and courage. And in the quiet glow of Glevara's towers, the first human touch would be remembered forever.